All right, Unexplained ones, welcome back to All Things Unexplained. I am Dr. Mounts, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button or the follow button, depending on where you're listening or watching at. Jon Kosloski, the director of AARO, that's the All-Domain Anomalous Resolution Office, recently made some very interesting comments about black triangular UAP while a guest on StarTalk radio with none other than Neil DeGrasse Tyson. We're going to dive deep into those for this episode, so stay tuned.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's.
Did the CIA write Wind of Change by the Scorpions?
As humans busied themselves about the various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied.
Dr. Loeb, what percentage chance do you give it that you have indeed uncovered extraterrestrial or non-human technology?
With infinite complacence, people went about their affairs, yet across an immense ethereal gulf, intellects vast and unsympathetic drew their plans against us.
All of a sudden, a stick out of nowhere landed right in front of us, and there was no tree, nothing overhead. Something threw it at us.
Yeah. What's your hot take on Travis Taylor?
I've got an exclusive for you guys if you want it about the Alaska.
We do.
Okay.
Dr. Taylor was revealed to be the chief scientist of the UAP task force with the Pentagon.
All Things Unexplained.
So some of that, I think, sir, will save for closed session.
Welcome back to All Things Unexplained. This episode, we're unpacking one of the most revealing interviews yet with Jon Kosloski, head of the Pentagon's UFO office, also known as AARO, who just appeared on StarTalk with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And from Tyson's reaction to black triangle sightings to suppressed science, this episode connects the dots in ways you may not hear anywhere else. So now let's check out Jon Kosloski's comments on StarTalk Radio with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I want you to pay attention to two things. Number one, the actual comments by Kosloski on these very black triangular UAP and how serious Kosloski is about this. But then number two, the reaction of Neil deGrasse Tyson on StarTalk Radio. More about that after these comments. Here's Jon Kosloski on StarTalk Radio.
There are a few triangles that have been seen by local law enforcement.
These are glowing triangles in the sky.
In this case, very, very black triangle, triangular prism. So it looks like a pie slice, hovering about the size of a Prius, about 40 to 60 meters away. So as the officer was driving up to investigate underneath a glowing orb, which I'll get to those in a second.
I am so afraid right now. Are we... I want a bunker. Can I get a bunker for Christmas?
I'm worried enough about the damn triangle. No, he's saying it's below orbs. Okay. All right. Now I'm scared. Okay, go.
He slammed on his brakes, and this thing the size of a Prius, blacker than black, reared up 45 degrees and then shot up into the sky faster than anything he'd ever seen. Mm-hmm. And as it was leaving his sight, it shot out red and blue fireworks, flares, so bright it lit up the inside of his vehicle. He didn't see any propulsion, no wind, didn't hear anything over the sound of his own vehicle.
And you have more than one of these sightings?
We have a few others, one from local law enforcement, some from the...
He was not able to get a picture.
No, I thought...
No dash cam, unfortunately.
How unfortunate.
Yes.
Okay,
That's our luck.
They've got chest cams.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but...
You got to give all of law enforcement UAP cams.
Right.
So we're working
Very disappointed here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I am getting
You're on it. Yeah.
You're on a roll.
We got to equip folks. You're absolutely right.
I am so disappointed here.
Yeah. So there have been cases, triangles. There have been cases of large orbs seen hovering a few
Why
hundred
didn't
feet.
the officer turn on their forward dash cam?
In this case, he slammed on his brakes. It happened almost instantaneously, and he was terrified. He didn't know what was happening.
He knew enough to notice it and respond by putting on his brakes.
He couldn't just get the... pull over, please. You couldn't do that? You can't do that? I throw a gum wrapper out and I get that.
Yeah. I'm just saying, He had enough time to think about it, put on his brakes. If I see a triangle prism, I'm photographing it.
I know, but it's out of fear, maybe. Like people are skeptical because they don't want to confront something they don't understand.
In this case, I don't think he was skeptical. He was terrified for his life. And so he was just getting back to a safe position. That's what that was.
Did he go in reverse?
He did. 100 miles an hour backwards while on the phone with his sergeant the whole time.
On the phone, going backwards.
Yeah.
He can't stop and take a picture?
I don't think that's what your training tells you.
Give me this guy's name and badge number. I want his badge number right now.
I'm not sure that'll go well for you.
Wait, there was a floating orb thing. Glowing floating orbs.
In that same region of the country, a couple law enforcement officers had seen glowing orbs a few hundred feet above the ground, a few miles away. In one of these instances...
Wait, if it's a few miles away, how do they know it was a few hundred feet above the ground?
He was estimating based on height above trees.
This is 4 inches above Marty's Deli.
Yes.
That's what this sounds like.
That's exactly right.
Okay? All right.
That's exactly right.
What part of the country was this?
We'd rather not say.
Okay,
as we're conducting our investigations, we
Dude,
don't want to bias
I'm taking a vacation. You got to tell me where, because I am not going there.
Tyson's reaction to Kosloski was dismissive, almost immature, joking and deflecting when the subject of anomalous craft came up. This matters because Tyson represents the mainstream science voice to millions of listeners. His unwillingness to engage seriously with Kosloski's comments signals the cultural resistance UAP research continues to face, even at the highest levels of public science communication. Now, when I heard Kosloski make these comments, it immediately brought to mind a guest that we've got coming on that we're very excited about in October. Specifically on October 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern, All Things Unexplained will welcome Dr. Stephen Bruehl to the show. That episode will be titled Applying Traditional Scientific Methods to the Study of UAP. When we were talking about coming on the show, Dr. Bruehl was kind enough to share one of his papers with us, a preprint he wrote in conjunction with Sarah Little and Robert Powell, titled Cluster Analysis of Features Associated with Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, described in 216 select reports from 1947 to 2016. Dr. Bruehl is also the co-author of a paper that recently went viral with Beatrice Villarreal titled Some Transients in the Palomar Observatory Sky Survey May be Associated with Above-Ground Nuclear Testing and Reports of Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. In Bruehl's preprint with Little and Powell, they talk about a particular type of UAP they describe as Cluster 4. The most notable feature regarding the primary clustering variables for Cluster 4 was shape, with these UAP reported most frequently to be roughly triangular in shape. All objects in this cluster displayed an ability to hover. None were associated with EM effects or sound that's electromagnetic, and they were intermediate in size relative to other clusters. In terms of secondary characteristics, objects in Cluster 4 tended to be observed at low altitudes and relatively near the observer. It is notable that nearly all sightings of UAP assigned to Cluster 4 took place at night, and black was the single most common object color reported. In more than 2/3 of these cases, the UAP displayed distinct lights, a higher percentage than any other cluster type. Objects in Cluster 4 were more likely than all other identified UAP types to exhibit estimated speeds greater than Mach 1 and instantaneous acceleration or deceleration. More than 40% displayed odd movement patterns and approached the observer. So back to Kosloski's comments, his language is strikingly close to Cluster 4 of Dr. Stephen Bruehl's cluster analysis. Triangular UAP that hover silently, appear black at night, often display distinct lights, and show extraordinary performance, like rapid acceleration, speeds greater than Mach 1, and instant directional changes. Dr. Bruehl did tell All Things Unexplained directly, if Kosloski's triangle cases are from the past decade, they would not be in their historical dataset, but it does sound exactly like Cluster 4. Dr. Kosloski also recommended that we reach out to Dave Marler, the preeminent expert on triangular UAP, according to Dr. Bruehl. We have reached out to Dave, and we hope to hear back from him soon. Marler has compiled thousands of triangle reports globally, and his work consistently matches the kind of encounter Kosloski just described. Okay, now it's time to go down the rabbit hole just a little bit. In 2022, Ukrainian astronomers published a paper documenting two classes of UAP. One they called cosmics, which were very bright, luminous objects, and the other they called phantoms, extremely dark, almost invisible objects. They were so black they were described by the astronomers as absorbing nearly all light around them. The phantoms were seen at speeds up to 15 kilometers per second, with sizes ranging from 20 to 100 meters, and could only be detected when they blocked out the sky behind them. These phantoms that were described by the Ukrainian scientist are eerily similar to Kosloski's very black triangles. And interestingly, this Ukrainian study does circle back a little bit to Villarreal and Bruehl, the authors of the viral paper on the UAP transients that they noticed in the Palomar Observatory Sky Survey. Again, Dr. Bruehl and Villarreal co-authored that UAP paper, which investigated anomalous transients in old observatory plates. Now, what exactly became of this study by the Ukrainian scientist? That's very interesting, and we'll get to that in just a bit. Meanwhile, All Things Unexplained discovered an interesting connection between the same Ukrainian observatory and Dr. Villarreal's study on the transients. On Villarreal's paper from 2021 titled Exploring 9 Simultaneously Occurring Transients on April 12, 1950, one of the co-authors is listed as Vitaly N. Andruk. Andruk is a scientist at, you guessed it, the main astronomical observatory of the NAS of Ukraine. And there can be no doubt, based on our research, that Andruk and the three authors of the Phantom paper, all of whom work at the main astronomical observatory, the NAS of Ukraine, absolutely work closely together. So the Ukrainian observatory, from which three scientists wrote the paper on cosmics and phantoms, had another scientist that also contributed data to Villarreal's transient study. This is some very intriguing continuity between Villarreal and Bruehl's transient study. Archival black triangles, which are known as Cluster 4, in Bruehl's previous studies. Modern phantom UAP detected by the Ukrainian observatory, and Kosloski's present-day testimony on StarTalk radio. Now, All Things Unexplained has sought to find out more information on these law enforcement encounters with these triangle UAP. We're still waiting to hear more about that. Want to be a real part of the show? One of the best ways you can support us is by visiting our official store. All you have to do is head over to unexplainedswag.com. There you can pick up podcast t-shirts, podcast hoodies, coffee mugs, and lots more, including our best-selling UFO t-shirt and UAP t-shirt. Just head over to unexplainedswag.com. You can also get to the store from our main website, allthingsunexplained.com, and from wherever you're listening or watching to us at. Okay, so what happened to the Ukrainian Phantom study? Well, when it first appeared, it also went viral, but then something very interesting happened. Let's rewind back to another guest on All Things Unexplained, Dr. Avi Loeb. And we're speaking with astrophysicist Avi Loeb, and I'm glad we went down this path about the scientific community, because recently on this show, we attempted to do a deep dive into what appeared to be an explosive scientific paper, a team of Ukrainian astronomers. Shortly after we put that podcast out, we saw that you had a response to their study. If what they were saying had merit, it was potentially one of the most explosive, giant leaps of scientific discovery in human history, is the way I looked at it. Tell us what you saw when you looked at what appeared to be a Ukrainian astronomical study on UAPs.
So, the purpose of science is to increase the signal to noise ratio, basically reduce as much as possible the level of noise so that you can see the signals sticking out. Okay, that's what most experiments aim at. And that's why I was reluctant to even read the Ukrainian report, because there is a lot of noise in a war zone. Okay, that's the last place on earth where I would put my instruments, because there are all kinds of secretive drones and all kinds of equipment flying around. And anyway, after the visit of this person from government that I mentioned before, he urged me to think about writing a scientific paper about UAP. And I looked at the Ukrainian report the following morning, and what they claimed was to see two types of objects, bright objects and dark objects. And the dark objects, they said, are detected at a distance of about 10 kilometers, and they move at speeds that exceed the escape speed from the Earth, up to 15 kilometers per second. Okay, and they said these are 10 meters in size. And I immediately calculated that they would create a huge fireball if they were to interact with the air, like any object moving through the air. And the point is, they were claiming that they are dark. Okay, so clearly no fireball. So in order for them to be dark relative to the brightness of the air, they have to block light, electromagnetic radiation. And my point is, if they interact with electromagnetic fields blocking light, they should also interact with electrons in the atmosphere that produce electric and magnetic fields. So they cannot just block light and cannot block the particles of air. So my point is, they must interact with the air if they are dark relative to this, and therefore they must create a fireball. Now I said, okay, so what went wrong? It turns out that they didn't measure the distances in a reliable way. The best way to measure distances is by triangulation. If you measure the position of the object in the sky from different directions, just like we have two eyes so that we can estimate distances. You know, all the animals, all the humans that had one eye did not survive, because when a tiger would come close to them, they would think the tiger is far away. And only those with two eyes could tell the distance of the tiger and manage to escape. So that's why we have two eyes, the survival of the fittest. So anyway, so the way to tell distance is to watch an object from different directions. They did not do that. They had one sight observations of the dark objects, and they estimated distance indirectly. And I argued, okay, maybe they got it wrong. The distance is 10 times closer. So instead of 10 kilometers, it's 1 kilometer. And then you end up with a speed of 1.5 kilometers per second with a size of an object of 1 meter. And that turns out to be the parameters of artillery shells. So I said, you know, they would not produce a fireball. These are artillery shells, or they could even be closer and be bullets, you know, or even closer and be something smaller. So my point was that their distance estimate is incorrect. And I just wrote a quick paper about it. And until they demonstrate they measure distances correctly, you know, we should not pay attention. And it turns out the Academy of Sciences of Ukraine released around the same time a statement saying that they don't believe the distance calculations of this paper. Okay, so it was never internally reviewed. And so the thing that really surprised me was, as soon as my paper came out, those believers on UAP immediately started to attack me, because they said, well, this looks just like the Nimitz incident 20 years earlier. And I say, that's irrelevant. These people are, you know, you need, the only way to answer my criticism is by telling me why the distances are correct. Okay, that's the only way. You can't make analogies between an event occurring now and an event that occurred 20 years ago, because it's a different place and a different environment. This is a war zone. The Nimitz was not a war zone. So in order to eliminate all the possible objects that are flying around, such as drones, artillery shells, bullets, in order to eliminate them from being possible contributors to what these people reported, you have to tell me why the distance estimate is correct. And that's the only way to, but it showed to me that, by trying to maintain common sense, I get attacked from both directions. About Oumuamua, I get attacked by the mainstream of scientists. Right. And about the Ukrainian report, I get attacked by those believers that are not really paying attention to scientific details. And that shows to me why it's so difficult to maintain common sense in the current environment, that is very polarized on any subject. But I don't care about both extremes. I think, we should follow the scientific method and figure it out.
So according to Dr. Loeb, then head of AARO, Sean Kirkpatrick, visited his home, asked him about writing a paper on UAP, and Dr. Loeb wrote a scathing rebuttal of the cosmic phantom study from the Ukrainian scientist. He called that down-to-earth limits on unidentified aerial phenomena in Ukraine, and he essentially completely rebuked all of their mathematics and findings on the cosmics and phantoms. Not only did he question about doing such research in an active war zone, but he completely rebuked all of their mathematics and findings. Shortly thereafter, the observatory itself also disavowed the study by their own scientists, saying that their study was indeed flawed. So what are we to make of this circle? AARO's own director confirms very black triangles. Statistical Science by Dr. Stephen Bruehl says triangle UAP are a real distinct category. Astronomical scientists in Ukraine independently detected dark phantoms consistent with the same archetype, and yet when scientists published on them, there was great pushback from Dr. Avi Loeb and others. Meanwhile, mainstream celebrity scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson just laugh off the UAP topic. Maybe it's time we stop laughing and start asking why the most consistent UAP archetype, the black triangle, is being both confirmed and shot down at the same time. I'm Dr. Mounts, and thanks for joining us for another episode of All Things Unexplained.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's.
Did the CIA write Wind of Change by the Scorpions?
As humans busied themselves about the various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied.
Dr. Loeb, what percentage chance do you give it that you have indeed uncovered extraterrestrial or non-human technology?
With infinite complacence, people went about their affairs, yet across an immense ethereal gulf, intellects vast and unsympathetic drew their plans against us.
All of a sudden, a stick out of nowhere landed right in front of us, and there was no tree, nothing overhead. Something threw it at us.
Yeah. What's your hot take on Travis Taylor?
I've got an exclusive for you guys if you want it about the Alaska.
We do.
Okay.
Dr. Taylor was revealed to be the chief scientist of the UAP task force with the Pentagon.
All Things Unexplained.
So some of that, I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.